The title of this podcast is Put Your Consciousness on a Higher Task. When I started to do this in my life, I started to see and experience something completely different. I started to have more inner peace. I experienced more joy and bliss. I had more compassion for others. I was able to connect with the humanity and other people. And that's because I put my consciousness on me being the best version of myself. I place my consciousness on raising the moment in front of me. And no matter what situation you're experiencing, what challenge is in front of you, that you put your consciousness on making that situation, that challenge better, of lifting it, you will experience something that is amazing and you will grow. You will grow. And this has certainly been the case for me. When I didn't do that, and I was not intentional about the things that I was going to focus on, be aware of, I experienced the exact opposite. I experienced suffering and a lot of it. During my time in the Marine Corps station in Yuma, as well as serving overseas, I spent a lot of time worrying, ruminating, being in the grip of obsessive thinking about what was going to happen during the uncertainty of being overseas during the first Gulf War. Also, when I was in Yuma, I was ruminating about not wanting to be there. I wanted to be stationed where I'm from, Tennessee, and I wasn't. So I complained internally and externally every single day. And in that case, I just experienced suffering for 4 straight years. I don't remember one moment of peace while I was there. And it wasn't Yuma. It wasn't the situation. It wasn't being in the Gulf at that point back in the early 90s. It wasn't that. What it was my consciousness was fixated and distracted by things that are not higher, things that are lower, like how this impacts me, it not meeting my expectations. And Yuma is too hot. There's no one here that looks like me, that has the same interest that I have. All these things, which in those moments that were completely outside of my control. But had I placed my consciousness higher, those experiences would have been completely different. In the face of Yuma not being what I signed up for, I would have made the most of my time there. I could have spent my time learning more about the people that live in Arizona and love Arizona. I could have learned how to speak and write Spanish more fluently because of the proximity of Yuma, Arizona to Mexico. I could have visited the Grand Canyon back then because it's in Arizona, as opposed to waiting almost 30 years to go see the canyon for the first time when I was more conscious. Instead of bringing my supervisors and leadership all of my complaints, I could have done some things that were much more thoughtful in my communication. They had a heavy task. I could have asked them, what could I do to make their jobs easier? How could I contribute? How could I be a better service person? But I didn't do any of those things. And much of my life, what I found was when I was upset or angry, i.e., another word for that is suffering. When I was doing those things, it because my consciousness was at the very base level of being a human being. When I began to raise my consciousness on higher things, what came to me was, how can I be of service in this moment to those around me or to situations? And fortunately, that's what I bring to my relationships now. I don't always get it right. I mean, there's some challenges, and when those show up, I have good friends around me who are my circle of friends who are on a similar path, who help me see things very differently, who help me see the possibilities in that moment when I seem to be upset about something that's out of my control, that I'm not practicing acceptance. Not that you can't improve the situation, because sometimes you can. But before you get to the improving part, get to the acceptance part. Take that step and make sure that what you're doing is not because you can't handle the situation. It's that you can handle it. And if the situation didn't change one bit, you would be okay. And after you are okay, then if there's things to do to make it better, then feel free to do that. And that's what I started to do. So my relationships now are better because I've worked on myself. And in the situations in which people uh, are not working on themselves, that are not conscious, that may be operating from a place of fear, that may be engaged in healthy behaviors like blame and shaming and guilt. In those cases, uh, I have just complete compassion because I remember what it was like to be in that space, and I can still raise the moments in those interactions too. I had one a day, and and I feel really good about the way that I handled it because I'm working on myself. And I've taken this everywhere from ToBeRe to Mayo Clinic where I work to my neighborhood where I often play pickleball. Is I'm thinking my consciousness is not going to be on whether or not I got the ideal partner to play with on the court. My consciousness is going to be how can I serve this moment with gratitude about being outside or being indoors, by playing a kid's game and having a blast, connecting with others. And most of all, how can I be a good teammate? That's where I'm placing my conscious these days. And my friendships, how can I be a better friend? How can I be a great friend? At work, how can I be a great colleague? With the leadership that I work with and report up to, how can I support their efforts? How can I minimize the weight of what they have to carry as leaders? So those are the things I'm thinking about. So I invite you, whatever you're working on right now, whatever, however life is showing up for you, to consider where are you placing your consciousness? Are you resisting? Are you worrying, ruminating? Are you blaming? Are you shaming? What are you doing? And of those things that I named are behaviors that you're engaged in, consider another path forward.